We're going.
Oh, we got live. Oh
Oh my god.
my god.
Let's
This
see if
one.
anybody shows up though.
Yeah. Turn that off. Turn that
Funny how
on.
that works.
That's on. Come over to Q&A. Make sure that's showing.
I don't know. Did I put the last one in the playlist? We're actually live right now.
Awesome. We're live. I will mind my manners.
Yeah, don't swear.
Much.
Let's see if anybody shows. May 13th.
Can you actually see if people are watching live right now? Like, is there a count?
There's a little thing in the lower right corner that says 0 viewers.
Oh, so we're not. This will.
I don't know how often it updates though. What's that?
There's all this banter is just going to be on the YouTube, not actually
It's
doing
just going to be on the YouTube. Yeah, man. The docs are looking so nice. Did you see the mock-up of the new layout?
I did. It looks clean and corporate and lovely.
It's lovely. There's a Write the Docs conference in Portland right now.
Read the docs, write the docs, same thing.
Read the Docs is the company. Write the Docs is the conference by the company. Isn't that great?
Are you going?
If I can get my work done, I have to go to Angle Brackets tomorrow, so I need to get my work done and get my demos working.
Okay.
Hunter showed the demo where you build on a Windows machine and
on Mac and go to Mac.
Go to Mac.
Using Glenn's latest stuff, where you can install Mono for Mac on your Windows machine and then package it up and then send it over.
He actually ran it all off the USB key. He said.
Yeah, no, but there's Glenn added support in a branch of DNVM that now lets you on Windows install the Mac Mono.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so it can come along for the ride.
Then it can come along for the ride. Yeah.
Right. And what was the other thing I was going to tell you? Oh, and then I talked to Glenn about making DNVM more pit of success.
Yeah.
So when I run DNVM on a machine where I've just installed it from scratch, it doesn't do anything. If I go list, it doesn't do anything. By itself, it doesn't do anything. So now on a machine that has never seen a runtime, on the very first run of DNVM, it's like, hey.
Yeah. Do you want to install one?
Let me install some stuff. Just a little pit of success.
Yep. Nice.
All right. Okay. People on Twitter say there's at least one viewer.
One person has said they're watching? Okay. Well, I guess we better do something.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Hello.
Welcome.
I didn't see you there. It's the ASP.NET Community Stand-Up. It is Tuesday, the 19th of May. I am getting ready to go to Angle Brackets down in Phoenix. Hunter's down there and just did a keynote, which was pretty shiny. And how are you, Damien?
I'm well. I'm good. I'm one coffee in, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Just one coffee in?
One coffee in.
I'm one Diet Coke in, so I'm another 3 and I'll be ready to function.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So I was just mentioning, I was talking to Glenn about making DNVM easier. What I'm trying to work on right now is all the little things that prevent people from having good success. Like I was trying to figure out DNVM upgrade versus install yesterday, and just trying to is that intuitive? It doesn't I think it feels right because we know how to do it.
I personally think one of the issues is that install does too much. So install installs it, but then it also sets it to the active one for that session.
Totally agree. I remember complaining to you about that.
Yeah, like if I say install, it should just install, but not switch to the active one unless I put a different switch in or something like that. So I've always found that a little wonky, but we're still
upgrade installs the latest version and reassigns the specified alias to point at it.
And if you don't specify an alias, it uses the default alias, like the one called default.
So upgrade implies default and does it and replaces the default.
Yes.
And install just installs now?
Install installs, but then sets the current, it sets the current session's DNX to the one you just installed.
Oh, it implies that you want to do something after this.
Yes. Yeah, it's not -P, but it's still kind of weird. Like if you do a DNVM list straight after you do an install, the one you just installed will be marked active.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Which I don't like either. So
yeah, I agree. And then if you run DNVM by itself with Glenn's branch, it will go, hey, I'm Clippy or whatever, right? Looks like you're installing a .NET Cross.
Looks like you need a runtime.
Yeah, but basically it just does that. I do like the current feed settings thing. That's nice.
Oh, the new thing with the -U is spectacular. It's so much nicer than having to.
Here, let's do this. Let me share my screen.
People. Yeah.
Let me share my screen. You explain it to me.
Okay.
So what's going on here?
I see a black screen. Oh, there we go. So you have just typed DNVM. So this is like the masthead. It's like, oh, no arguments. This is just an introduction to. So if you look at the current feed settings,
Current
are
feed settings.
you running Windows 10?
No.
Okay, so we've done all this coloring by ourselves. This is very pretty.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So the current feed settings is showing you the default stable and unstable feed. So we now have a first-class support in DNVM for the concept of the stable feed versus the unstable one. By default, the stable one is nougat.org, which is where we put our named releases like beta 3, beta 4, etc. And by default, the unstable feed is set to our nightly feed. Well, it's not actually our nightly feed, it's our CI feed, but it's our verified CI feed. So ASP.NET VNext will only ever get pushed to when all 60 of our repos on GitHub build and work together. So if everything's going well, that gets pushed to multiple times a day, but sometimes things go wrong for a few days and that won't get updated for a few days. Then you can override that. So it says current stable override, current unstable override. You can override those things with environment variables. And so those two URLs are actually baked into the script, but you can override those with environment variables, and it'll show up here whether you're currently overriding those because your DNX_feed environment variable has been changed. Okay. So now we have the unstable feed. It means that you can do like DNVM. If you do a DNVM list now, which shows that you have one version installed on this machine, which is just beta 4 x86 for Windows.
An operating system is listed.
That's new. That's new in Glenn's branch, I think.
Yeah, I'll show you what it does. I can go over here and then just delete the runtime, correct?
Yep.
Just torch it.
This script is essentially, DNVM is just a glorified file system traverser. Like all it knows how to do is look at stuff in the folder that you just deleted from and set environment variables and copy stuff from NuGet feeds. That's really all it does.
Glenn's branch, if I say DNVM.
Yeah. Look at that. That's new.
Looks like you're trying to install a runtime.
Yeah.
And then you just hit enter.
We need
a progress bar.
We need an ASCII art of some smart agent.
That would be a horrible idea. Maybe a little dog.
A little dog. And
then then it shows up.
Yeah. That's nice. I like that.
I think that should become, that should be a thing.
So did you just type upgrade or install? Like how did you get it?
I just pressed enter. That was so great about it.
For you. Okay. So that did it from see how that did it from the stable feed?
Right. This is the pit of success. I told Glenn that it's too hard.
Yeah.
First, you have to get people to type DNVM, which is why I want them to type .NET or something. But they type DNVM, and they don't know what they want. If there is nothing, now if I hit DNVM again, it just runs.
It just runs and gives you the help.
The runtimes folder was empty, so there is no other thing you could possibly want to do.
Right, and so this helps the scenario, like you said, of a machine that doesn't have any DNX on it at all. The first step you generally do is you go to the GitHub homepage, you run that PowerShell snippet to get DNVM into your user profile, which puts it on the path. Then you would run just DNVM, and it would say, oh, look, you've got DNVM, but you don't have a DNX. Do you want me to go and install one? You can just hit yes.
This is the This is the out-of-box experience.
Out-of-box experience. So if you now wanted to, you're using stable feed. If you wanted to upgrade to something from the unstable feed, which is our, effectively from our dev branches on GitHub, you could just type DNVM upgrade -u, which is -u for unstable. That will hit the iGet feed, and that's getting you 100 beta 5 11781, which was the last build of the DNX that, based on whoever, code changes happened yesterday.
And how would I know to type -u?
It's in the help.
So I would get to help by DNVM help or DNVM upgrade help?
Yes, you can do DNVM, I think it's help upgrade, or I can't remember if it's one way or the other. I mean, all command lines are different. I usually just type one and look at what it tells me.
But if I type DNVM upgrade without it, though, it would do something.
If I do DNVM upgrade without the switch, it'll use the stable feed.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to learn, just do DNVM help.
If I go like that.
No, that doesn't work. Yeah.
That sucks.
It actually gives you because I think it just takes that argument and tries to send it to the server. Yeah, no, it's not -- help. I think it's just help. So do DNVM help.
Okay.
Right? Right, then do DNVM help upgrade.
There we go.
There we go. So that gives you
unstable.
Unstable. Sorry. So now and if you do DNVM list again, you should have a
Oh,
newer
nice.
version.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was yeah. That's
So, so
because
this is a good reminder though. If I
Hmm.
go over here to alias,
Yep, it's just a
it's
file.
just a text file.
Yeah, so it took that argument as an ordinal or a positional argument and just assumed it was the alias that you wanted.
And notice the alias, the default got upgraded to beta 5, which I don't like.
Because you said upgrade.
Because but we talked about how the upgrade. Oh, but I think you should, you know what I think you should do?
Yeah.
I think upgrade is important enough that you should make them type the alias. You shouldn't upgrade, like when you say upgrade, like, well, upgrade what?
Yeah, I mean, it's a
You're
little weird on
saying
the box where
upgrade
you have,
means go to the latest.
you only have one alias though. So like, it seems a
Yeah,
little
I don't know.
gross
I
to
guess I like
type
more
it.
explicit.
Yeah, I mean, and you can be, it's like Git, right? I mean, it's no different to Git. Git, you
Yeah,
can
that's true.
omit parameters and it'll try and do the smart thing, but sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
So,
I tend to be explicit when I use Git because I've been burnt in the past. But
right.
for this, generally I just want to type upgrade and be done with it because I usually stick to one channel, right? I stick
I
to
think though
unstable.
that's because you're literally on the dailies, while the
Yeah,
normal
that's
human
true.
will be on the monthlies.
Yeah, I mean let's face it, people will not be typing upgrade very often unless you're
True.
working against open source versions of this.
Well, would you even say that people won't be typing DNVM often? Like, we
Yes, they
like to
won't.
show this because we like to see the underneath, but frankly, most people will probably never even spend time at the command line.
No, and I mean to be fair, I think over time this type of use of DNX will become more popular because this just hasn't been possible in the past. You've never been able to manage the bootstrapper for your .NET environment at your user profile level like
Right.
this.
But even more, when I was in 2003, 2004, I was always at the command line typing CLR ver
Right.
or messing around. But then once I trusted .NET, I stopped doing this.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your flow. If you're going to use VS Code instead of Visual Studio,
Yeah.
this might be something you'll do a lot more often because you're in the command line choosing the DNX to use because maybe you want to try it on core CLR versus full framework, or you might be doing what we just spoke about before, which is you want to install the Mac or Linux DNX even though you're on Windows, just so that you can build a deployment package with your app which includes a Linux DNX so that you can then push it to a Linux box. You would use DNVM to do that.
And notice here, if I go to default, I don't like my default here. I can change it at the command line, or I can just type beta 4
Yep.
in the text
So,
file.
yeah, it's no magic. There's no registry here. It's just text files and folders on disk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
So I know that we got a note from the Applications Insights team.
Before we move on to that, there's one other command I want to show people here.
All right.
So the other thing that's very common that I'll do, so you've done an upgrade, but notice it only brought down one architecture type, one runtime type, and one OS. Sometimes in fact, you don't even have the core CLR version of Beta 4 on this machine.
Oh,
So,
that's a good point. I just have the full CLR.
right. So if you want to install the core CLR version, all you have to do is do DNVM install,
Okay.
DNVM install default, and then -r core CLR. So it's saying take everything from the default alias, but just change the runtime to core CLR. Now it's going to download that from the stable branch because you didn't do -u, and then it's going to download that, and then it's going to run the cross-gen command to compile native images for the current machine, and then that will appear in your list.
And what is cross-gen?
Cross-gen is it's kind of like NGen. It's basically just NGen. It's
NGen cross-platform.
yeah. That's where my understanding of it stops.
All right. So it does some stuff.
It does
Unpacking
some stuff.
runtime, that means unzipping.
Unzipping. Now it's generating runtime native images.
That's new.
Yeah. Well, that's been there in DNVM for a while, but that's new, I guess, in terms of, in Windows, there's a background service that does this. You may have noticed the Windows.NET Runtime Optimization service that's listed in your services manager.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing on Windows that when you download new assemblies, can NGen them so they don't have to get jittered if they go in the GAC.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so it's just that we do that on demand because we're not relying on the services and the .NET framework to do that. Depending on what CLR you actually run your application on.
All right.
Okay, so yes, your note about App Insights. We got a note from them asking us to remind
Here's
people.
cross-gen.
There it is. Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, so we got a note from Application Insights that they have a preview now for ASP.NET 5.
Yeah.
So if you are putting ASP.NET 5 applications live, should they be doing that? Should they be going live with this?
No.
They
Um,
shouldn't.
I mean, there's no go live license. There's no support.
You're on your own.
You're on your own, but if you want to run a site, I mean, we run a bunch of sites, right? There's package search,
Yeah.
.azurewebsites.net, which is the thing that Glenn put together that does sort of the reverse NuGet index for .NET Core packages that lets you find what package a type is in.
Mm-hmm.
That has App Insights deployed inside of it, and it runs on Azure. So we get usage information, we get all the CLR stuff out of it, all the metrics and telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, people can try it out.
And so they've changed things, right? So in regular ASP.NET apps, you just say make a client if you wanted to track events.
Yeah.
But of course, we do
DI.
DI, so you want to think about that. So there's something, there's a singleton, and you use their dependency injection to do that. And they walk you through what's changed. It's just started, and of course, all of it's on GitHub. So this is important. This is really important. This is why we have the Community Stand-Up, okay? Look at this. Think about the way that they're doing it. If you don't like the way that they're doing it, it's on GitHub.
Yep.
Now, their stuff is in Application Insights, off the Microsoft repo.
Yep.
So that's github.com/Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
And get in there and get comments, because if you don't like the way it looks, if you don't like the way it behaves, the feedback that they're going to get, the way we do feedback here now, is issues on GitHub.
Absolutely.
All right. What else do you have?
So I've personally been working on the localization stuff a bit, which is good. That's now going to hopefully make it into beta 5. So we'll have the localization middleware, and hopefully we'll get support for loading of localized resources through the DNX. So if you've got your application with regex files for different cultures, you can configure localization middleware, and then there's the iString localizer abstraction that you can use to get localized resources inside your web app. So that's going on.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of work going on for beta 5 in the DNX itself. A bunch of refactoring, support for NuGet 3, feeds, which will make some stuff much faster. A whole bunch of bug fixes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all good.
NuGet 3 is a different endpoint.
NuGet 3 is an entirely new server layout, effectively, and a different endpoint, like you said. So it requires a new client, and the DNX includes a NuGet client. They share code between NuGet XE and the Visual Studio NuGet client and DNX, and so we're updating that for NuGet 3 support. Some other fun stuff. We've been working on DNX support for Windows. The name blanks already. Windows
IoT.
No, Nano.
Windows Nano Server.
A Windows Nano Server, which is now in preview. We've been working on getting DNX running in there. It kind of runs right now, but we had a demo put together, but we're factoring it properly to really support it now. And as part of doing that, we have now got DNX XE booting on a Raspberry Pi running Windows 10 IoT. I saw that yesterday. One of those, exactly. That I have one of those. It looks identical to that with the same case, because you were kind enough to print it for me on my desk.
I label them.
Yeah, nice. And the developer who sits 2 seats down from me, Pavel, who's been doing this native work, he is remoting into my Raspberry Pi over the network to run remote PowerShell, and he has got DNX for ARM built on there, and successfully throwing an error message saying that it can't find the core CLR, which is
that's how we roll. A hello world in our group is yellow screen of death,
basically,
or stack dump.
The next step is to try and hack together a core CLR for ARM from the existing IoT UWP tool chain stuff that's in preview, and we can see if we can't get some Franken beast of a DNX running on ARM just to prove that we can do it. So that's kind of cool. There's a cool prototype going around at the moment from Victor, another developer on our team, to do with DNU, called DNU Source. So you'll remember the great demo, well, I think it was a great demo, we did a build where we do the change package to source code. By cloning or downloading the source from GitHub and then changing a global JSON. Victor has been working on a prototype to make that more official as a command hanging off DNU, so that you could go to the command line, type DNU source, with an argument with the package name inside the scope of your application, and then it would automate that whole flow for you. It would, look at metadata in the package, get the Git URL and the SHA, clone the Git repository, check it out at that point, and then update your global JSON file to point at that location, and then magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's DNU, there's the list of commands right now. He's working on that new one called DNU source, to try and automate that flow. And then eventually we could build a Visual Studio experience, like a right mouse click experience in the Solution Explorer that would call into DNU source that does the same thing, but from VS.
Right,
So,
and we've been talking about this for years, and we showed this idea at Build and asked the audience if they wanted us to build this, and they said they did, and you said you would build it.
yeah.
So that's happening, and of course it has to build up from the command line, right? So in the new world, you have to have support for something at the command line so that you can make it callable from Visual Studio.
Yeah, I mean, everything we do is command line first. DNU itself is actually a DNX app, and so it runs cross-plat. So we build it once on top of DNX, meaning it can run on Mac, Linux, and Windows, and then VS just essentially calls into the command line for you and adds all the VS isms on top of it, which is nice.
Right, that's a good reminder. So DNVM, that's this, and I will point out that it's pretty.
Yes.
And then if I type where DNVM, you can see where that is, right?
Yeah.
But then if I say DNU, that's specific to the version.
Correct.
Right? Now if I say where DNU, that lives over here.
Yeah, that's actually in the bin folder for the DNX you've currently chosen.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it would be a .sh on Linux.
Correct.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. And so lastly, I just wanted to give people an update on schedule. So we're working on putting together our roadmap through to RTW now for ASP.NET 5. And we hope once we get that signed off on and verified and bought in across all the various teams that are involved with this, we will make that public, hopefully as soon as possible. I certainly hope in the next week or two. And so people will then have full information on how many more betas we'll have and RCs and that type of thing, and then eventually an RTW, and roughly when those dates will land, so that people who are busily trying to update their community packages, maybe they have a very popular NuGet package, or some of our other partners can now look to align with us and have an expectation of when things are going to drop when.
Can we give people some kind of more information? Like many people are saying, we're starting a project now. Will you be ready for date? Like, yes. When is it smart to start preparing for this stuff?
The schedule will, when we have that roadmap out, it'll be abundantly clear when those dates are.
And is it ASP.NET 5 they should be thinking about and worrying about, or is it the core CLR? Like, could they start ASP.NET 5 development now and focus on the full framework and then have the core framework something that they build on the side?
So right now, the .NET Core and ASP.NET 5 on Windows, the plan is that they will ship in step at the same quality level at the same time. So when ASP.NET 5 goes RTW, .NET Core on Windows will be RTW. .NET Core cross-platform, we're still figuring out whether that will be RTW or RC or whatever at the same time as ASP.NET 5 is, or whether that will have a little bit of lag. I don't know yet. That's part of the process of working with the other teams to get this schedule nailed down. But once we know that information, we will share it immediately, and then people will be able to answer those questions themselves.
All right, cool. So just to be clear, core CLR and full framework, or the CLR you have in the GAC versus the CLR you have in your user folder, those are going to ship always together, side by side, same quality, same versioning.
Well, no. Just to clarify, the CLR that you have in the GAC ships as Windows.
Right.
So the .NET Core is a completely different, separate beast on its own schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're saying is that for the first release of ASP.NET 5, .NET Core for Windows will ship at the same quality level at the same time as ASP.NET 5.
There we go. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. This is why, I'm asking the questions people are thinking.
Yes, that's good.
I'm asking ignorant questions because there's nothing wrong with being ignorant. Cool. All right. I think we're good. Thank you very much. Let's get ready for the dramatic zoom out.
I am ready, sir.
Go. ASP.NET Community Stand Up.